Hi, Roger Federer. So today, hope there isn't too much noise. Seems to be like just kind of weird amount of traffic over here today. But I was actually originally going to do a video in response to the one that I put out yesterday. Because yesterday I felt like I talked about stuff and I didn't give sort of any solutions. And so as I was pondering that, driving today for whatever reason, like you get stuck in traffic. So I was making a point, instead of getting annoyed about traffic, I just start turning my mind toward things that are engaging. So as I was thinking about that and going over what I wanted to say for the video or whatever, I had some self-revelations myself, and I've been meaning to tell you this story about me and my experience in sports, and how much a mental sort of I don't want to say impediment. I mean, I had confidence, sort of like some sort of weird sort of confidence issues. Like I had confidence in myself on one end, but then when I would get in a race, I just somehow on some level, I just didn't believe I deserved to win. And that's been like some kind of weird theme here and there for me throughout life. It just really manifested itself on the track. And then I remember there'd be times where I had a lot of ability, my coaches and everyone, and I knew from my times and the way that I ran, I had a lot of potential. But just kind of like in that movie Jerry Maguire, where there's one point in the movie Jerry Maguire that came out years ago where he says, you got a lot of talent all over the world. Some pop like popcorn, some pops, and some don't. So, I don't want to think of myself as one of the people who didn't pop, but it definitely, for me, I just didn't have, I don't think, everything in full alignment to really take it, obviously take it to the next level where, and I don't want to speak so negatively about myself or paint myself in this really negative light, but for me, I could really see, and other people could see, that I could take this into something that could turn into, maybe even the Olympics or something like that. And then, there was this other thing. But for me, I used to get into a lot of races. I used to have trouble getting out. I didn't have trouble running ahead of other people, but I had trouble and fear of leading the pack. Getting out front and leading the pack. I didn't have trouble getting out front initially, but just mentally, not physically actually doing it. I would do it, but then I would be out in front of everyone and be like, oh my gosh, what now? I'm going to try to run. What if I'm going to get tired? What if this? What if that? My mind, I was just blessed with an analytical sort of mind, and sometimes it's the gift and the curse for me. So it's sometimes it's an impediment because it's just too much thinking, too much anticipation, too much, and you just think yourself out of the whole damn thing, and sometimes you can't even help it because your brain is just so used to working all the time. Conclusions just come out, kind of like you punch in something in a computer, like you would punch enter on a computer, and that's just how fast I feel sometimes the analytics in my mind would just go, okay, no, you still got 500 meters to go. You're out in front of these girls, they're fast, are you going to be able to keep this going, blah, 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 people are watching you, and you're already, so I had a lot of that going on, and I remember on one side, my father was also a runner. My father is a type A personality, and so my little quirks as far as this lack of confidence in leading and lack of confidence in pulling through and winning, he didn't have tolerance for it. He didn't have any understanding for that. And it's actually one time where I ran a really good race, and I was out ahead in the first lap, and I did a record-breaking lap. I mean, it was really, really a fast first lap for the amount of meters that I was running. And so I was very proud of that. I was feeling really, really good. And then all of a sudden, it was like I was leading and I was in first place as the first person to cross the line at the 400-meter mark. And, I did the next 200 meters, so I finally started completing 600 meters, and, and then there was a girl, like, right next to me. I was just already, like, mentally breaking down because I was out front. I just didn't, at that time, I just didn't really know what to do. It's so funny, and I feel like part of it probably was because I feel like not to get all like personal, but maybe I should just put everything out there, since actually in a lot of ways, like I'm analyzing, maybe I should just put this stuff out here, and then if you get bored, you can just turn this video off. So I feel like because I also was raised very strict, both by my mother and by my father, and so now looking back at the adult age I am and just understanding the dynamics in the world and sort of understanding myself and how I process things and how I process events, and looking back on memories and just connecting who I am now as an adult with who I was as a child, and those feelings and the confusion as a child, and then from an adult seeing that confusion but being able to see what it was and how I was processing it back then. I was able to kind of see that the fact that I was raised strictly, like, wrestled out sort of that self-individualism that would let you take the lead, and I'm not trying to, like, blame or be lazy or anything like that, but that was, like, my real mental block, and I would never have been able to figure this out. But I'm actually, you don't know this, no one on these videos knows this, but I'm actually a workshop junkie. Like, I'm always rolling myself into like workshops, and especially like in the last year or so, I've been in these amazing workshops of self-development and self-evaluation, and just really confronting some things, just really confronting like blocks and obstacles and things like that. But even before that, I was always doing this self-evaluation, a lot of thinking. Like, I'm really like a person who just tends to think too much, way too much, especially growing up. Like, I would take things like losing a race like really, really hard. I would go into a place of shame even, and so I know I'm probably like going all over the place a little bit, but back to this one race, so I was at the 600-meter mark, and then I for that 200 meters, for being out front, I was breaking down, and somebody sensed that behind me, and one girl just got confidence and started passing me. And then there was another girl. And strangely enough, somebody from my team actually took a picture right when the girl was just passing me and I was leading the pack. But from there, I started to really, like, break down, between that and some false sense of fatigue. My whole mental thing, just started, like, really breaking down. And that was probably one of the better races in a way, because that was a good fast track. I felt like mentally it was digestible, whereas for whatever reason it had longer curves than straightaway. It didn't have longer curves than the straightaways, but the curves, I don't know, made the track feel a lot easier mentally to get around quicker, whereas some tracks just have straightaways that just seem and feel really, really long. And it was just always this mental dialogue, and I could look back on that and see what that was then. And it's not to like be this excuse making person or anything, but just what it was. And at the time, like, no one really knew anything but to just say, you can really do this. And I remember, like, my mother being in the car and being so passionate, and it was one of her more loving moments. And it's not that she isn't a loving person, but it was just really one of her more ever so supportive moments in my childhood, coming back from one of those races that I'd lost, and I actually won a lot of races, so I don't make it seem like I lost a lot of stuff too, but I could have done a lot better, but that's the past or whatever. I really acknowledge and embrace where I was then, and I really understand it now. But my mother used to pick me up, and we'd be driving back from my meet or whatever, and she'd be like, Janaea, you just really have to believe that you can do this. Like, you are out front, you were leading, you really, really can do this. And then my coach would be like, you know what, Janaea, sorry, you're not even out of breath. This is ridiculous. Like, you gotta get it together. There'd be times like I would be so tired on track, but I wouldn't be out of breath. You know what I mean? But I should have taken the win and I didn't. Or I would have been. I was in first place and I didn't take it. And I used to just get afraid. I used to be so afraid, and everything used to just be breaking down out there. So this is why I really feel like I understand like this whole mental thing, and I really believe so strongly in it. I believe in when it comes to sports, like how they used to say it's like 90% mental, 10% physical, and I just always kind of believe that to be true. So it's always been very interesting for me. But on top of that too, just kind of being in my father's shadow, with him running, he got up every morning to run and stuff. Like, when I ran with my father, like, I could beat anybody. Like, my times would be good. I would just run really, really well. And he was such an awesome teacher. And he would really coach me so well to the point where, like, I wouldn't have anxiety, but I'd be able to just focus and let my foot hit the ground and just keep going. Like, if I had my father out with me on that track, I would have been able to win, but could have, would have, should. I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh, those days. I'm really not trying to make it seem like that. But today, like, I haven't even really thought about this stuff. And then today, it was like, I was thinking about something that I wanted to finish a point on from yesterday's video, like I said earlier. And then all of a sudden, like, this lingering feeling, this unconscious type of feeling that was kind of like not a good feeling. It's not a negative feeling, but not one where I feel like kind of like one where I felt like a little weird, and I just stopped for a moment. I was like, okay, well, what's this feeling, and it was while I had this thought about track. And then all of a sudden came to my mind when I asked you in the other video, like, have you forgiven yourself for matches that you felt that you personally judged yourself, Roger Federer, as underperforming in? And I was like, all of a sudden, like, that question came to my mind as well. I was like, well, I thought I forgave myself. I said, well, there's something weird here. Let me just sit with this and see, like, did I ever forgive myself for, there was this one race that was the worst. It was the worst race, actually. I had done, like I said, I had done really well. I had broken my own records every track season, but I still had this mental thing. No matter how well I did, I still had this mental thing. And I had a lot of medals, too. I won a lot of medals, and I recently just threw them out. It was so weird. A couple years back, I just threw them out. But, I just had this thing. I was like, just stop with this, because just stop and let this feeling really render itself. Like, don't push it away. Don't get in judgment and go, oh my gosh, that's the past. Like, just let this feeling be authentic. Like, let it be whatever it is. So I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, maybe I didn't forgive myself for this race that I had. It was the state championship qualifier. And I was in very good shape, physically, not mentally. And so I get out, we had like a California start, what they call a California start here, which means you're not starting staggered, everyone's starting at the same line. So you're just one line of like 10 people across or whatever. And the rule is, like, as soon as that gun goes off, because they shoot a gun, as soon as that gun goes off, like, you've got to, like, get out there, like, right away, out the path, like, lifting the gates at a dog, or, like a dog or a horse race. Like, you got to come out the blocks, even though there are no blocks. Blocks are for 100-meter dash and stuff like that. But you just have to come out really quickly, or else you're going to, everybody's going to just swarm you in and get out front. So that's what I did. And somebody took pictures. It's so funny, too, because you can really see, like, I was the first one out. I started out really, really fast in that race. I came around a 400-meter mark in first place and breaking another 400-meter record for my race, for the point in time for my split. My 400-meter split was a record for me. So for the first time, I was like, I'm really going to do this, because I had got my mind prepared and everything, not to the point that I know today. Like, I would have been able to prepare a lot better. But still, I was just, like, ready. I wanted to win. I wanted to make it to the state state championship, and so I'm over the 400-meter mark. There's only 400 meters more to go, just one more lap. And I'm doing well at the 600, at the 500-meter mark. And then I'm just home free. Like, I'm out front, number one, and all I had to do in our heat was just qualify 1, 2, 3. And I think maybe, I think it was just the top 3 people make it to the state championships. So I was good in my heat, and I was in the fastest heat. So as far as I remember, I was in the fastest heat. So I get there, and I'm like, for the first time in my life in high school track, I am ready to, like, really do this. I have had, like, years of just hitting the wall and doing stuff and being inspiration for other people, and then them coming up and go, oh my gosh, he ran such a good race. And like, having them come out and pull the best out of themselves and beating me. Like, I was just serving as, like, the bunny, like the little bunny that the dogs chase, kind of, and and people were pulling the best out of them. People behind me were pulling the best out of themselves to dig deep mentally, like, to beat me, and it didn't happen all the time. Like I said, I did quite well in track, but I also feel like I didn't do quite well, and see there, for me, like, I could see now, like, I have a lot of judgment against myself for high school, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even realize all of this until today, thinking about, saying something for Roger Federer. So I just want to continue to share my story. So back to the 500-meter mark. Like, I am absolutely more than ready, out of those 4 years in high school. Like, I am ready. Or actually, honestly, I can't remember if that was 11th grade or 12th grade. It was one of the two. So it was either the first time in 3 years or the first time in 4 years. But whatever the case was, I was, like, really ready to take it. So I started gearing up. And like I said, I was out front, and I heard there were no feet behind me. I didn't hear a thing. You know what I mean? Like, and I was just getting ready to, like, start increasing, not decrease, like, increasing, like, pull myself through, you know what I mean, through that straightaway, and then just use that curve at the end, and then come down at the straightaway, like, right when the muscle burn is, like, just coming strong to that finish line. Like, I was really, really ready. And God forbid, it was just like, all of a sudden, this fierce, ferocious tidal wave, ongoing, consistent, hurricane-like wind. It's like, I'm not trying to make an excuse here, but all of a sudden, this wind just blew, because we were, like, in a valley. I don't think I've ever really run on this track before, but the way it was set up, was in a valley, and so the area was really very open to a lot of wind, and that town was, just open to, I think, a lot of crosswind. So anyway, all of a sudden, this unbelievably ferocious force of a wind, just really broke down my stride. And I tried a little bit, but, it was like I tried, and then, that was just enough to try, and then this wind, like, literally stopped me, like, and I just broke down. I broke down, like, everything. Like, all of a sudden, this false fatigue came in, and this, So you're like, oh, you know, it was kind of like that, oh, you know, like that. And it was just a complete disaster, Roger. You know, it was a disaster. And not only did it happen to me, but a few people behind me who were running really well, like a few of us, like, hit the wall or something. I remember one other girl who was like a common rival or whatever, like she was really fast as well, and she didn't even make it, which is very surprising, you know, like both of us. And I don't know, like I felt like it was almost like a lesson. It was like, you know what, if you want this, you know what, this is what you've been struggling for. And then, like I said, I was at that 500 meter mark, and for the first time ever, I was really and truly like ready to take this race more than ever. Like I really truly was ready. And yeah, so it was like, I don't know, when that ferocious wind, it wasn't even just like a regular breeze. Like I had run in rain, I had run in the cold, I have run in winds, you know what I mean? But there was nothing like that. There literally, you know, I just started like picking my pace up just to, you know, and all of a sudden this wind it was just this force. It just literally like, you know, and it's just so indescribable. So I'm sure maybe it sounds like I'm making a whole bunch of excuses, but I haven't thought about this race in a long time, but I've carried it inside, and I just realized that today, you know. And so I didn't make it to the state championships, and that was it was really devastating, that race, you know. I didn't realize this until today, and this is many years later that I'm talking about this, and obviously, like, I've really been carrying this around inside of me, and I didn't realize it, because honestly, I'm going to be quite honest with you, like, I just let myself identify the emotion. I didn't judge it, I didn't try to repress it, I didn't go, oh my gosh, you know, this is like so many years ago, this is ridiculous, it's just a little track meet or whatever. I was like, let me just let it stand in its own integrity. Like, what is it? What is it you're trying to tell me? You know, you're standing here. I've recognized you before, but I've ignored you. You know, like unconsciously, and now I'm going to pay attention to whatever you are. So it's, you know, I let it render itself, and like I cried. You know, I cried just today, like, and I watched myself cry, and just. It wasn't the me of today crying. It was, you know, it was the me from another time. And again, I hope I'm not coming off as this person who's trying to like make excuses or anything like that. But, you know, I just observed myself. You know, this wasn't me, because when I woke up this morning, I was feeling great. You know, and I was excited to come and make a new video today, and then, you know, I just happened upon this, kind of like, you know, one happens upon some pretty little lake when they're driving around the countryside, and they discover, you know, drive down a certain back road, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's a lake back here. You know, it's kind of like, it's not as delightful, but I kind of just like, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, what is this feeling? And I felt it before, but I've never paid attention to it, you know. So I really realized, like, on some level, like, I really felt a sense of deep shame that day, you know, and I knew that at that time. Like, it actually took me 2 years. I know that probably sounds like really dramatic, but it wasn't that I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill myself, or, you know, it wasn't like that, but that, you know, for 2 years, that race would be hanging around in my mind. It would, you know, it would just cross my mind. You know, it would just cross my mind frequently, and it wasn't ever a pleasant thought. It wasn't like I would cry or anything at the time, but because I'm actually not a crier. You know, I'm actually not a crier. So, I mean, I do cry, but I don't really process my emotions by crying right away, you know, unless something really, or whatever. So anyway, it takes a little bit for me to cry. It's not that I don't cry, but it takes a little bit. So yeah, I mean, you know, those 2 years or whatever, like, first of all, I couldn't sleep. after that race happened, like, for that week, I couldn't sleep. I was, like, restless through every night because of that race. I felt isolated. I felt, and I didn't know this back then consciously, but I'm just looking at it now. I felt isolated, and I felt very inadequate. Like, my performance in front of, like, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 people, my coaches were there. There were people younger than me on my team. Like, I was supposed to be, like, more of an example, or I wanted to be what people were, what senior, people in 11th and 12th grade were to me when I was in 9th grade. Like, I didn't want to be the one, like, dying out in the middle of a freaking race. And then having, like, little 9th and 10th graders. So I think there was a little bit of that too, and just not making the state championship, like, and I know I was supposed to do that when I did an amazing split. I knew I wasn't tired, but I let myself, when that win came, I made a decision. I made a choice to, like, break down. I made a choice to let all, that was, like, the opportunity to just, that's when, like, the dam came down, I was, like, ready to do it, and then it was like, okay, we're going to test you, and then we're going to blow this wind, that's really what it felt like. It's not like to blame something like some kind of force was against me, but I just feel like, not to get all extra spiritual, but I just feel like the universe or whatever, like, it's just always right there pressing, and actually this is another thing my trainer says, which I love, she says something like, the universe will do whatever it takes to let you know that you are whole. So wherever you're not feeling whole, it's going to keep sending experiences, wherever you're not functioning as a whole and complete person, a person who can feel supported, who can move around in the world supported, who can move around without doubt, who can move around without feeling inadequate, and it's kind of like, if you're feeling inadequate or you're feeling doubt, like, it seems like, in my experience, and this is why I support what she says, that, you kind of get these situations all the time that are, like, poking at one area, that's not up to par, or just not functioning in completeness. And so, yeah, that was very interesting. So I just felt like that was my lesson. Like, I was coming at that 500 mark, and I'm like, I am ready. I'm going to do this. And it was just kind of like, are you really ready? Let's see. There's still something inside of you. Still, like I said to you yesterday, like, still a little bit of an energy leak there. And that's what that wind did to me. But in the midst of that wind, and it was really an unbelievable wind. Like, I've run in wind before. Like, that was just the kind of wind, like, literally I couldn't run against it. Like, it broke my stride. Like, my stride was like this, and then the wind came, and then it was like that. But I still made a choice. I mean, that's when the dam and everything and all the freak out, and all that, like, mental anticipation and the stories I'm telling myself and whatever the hell else is going on, the anxiety, everything that wasn't even really real, came out, and it's just like, oh, so that's why, I feel like I can talk about this and support you in this, and just saying, like, this is a normal thing. It's the things that athletes go through, but this is the work, man. Like, it's so much on the other side of this, and I look back on that experience today, and I'm like, wow, because of that experience, it was very so disappointing. And I think, again, when I look back on it, the biggest disappointment was feeling inadequate. It was feeling that I hadn't, like, I just was crap in front of a whole bunch of people. Like, I just didn't do what I was supposed to do, like, like that, just like that sports person who's talented, who doesn't do what they're supposed, like, who that person is. Like, you probably seen them on TV, like, oh, man, you're, like, bull crapping, like, you kind of just know when people are just sort of, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, it's just really interesting. And I feel like I wouldn't go back to change that as much as it was a painful situation. I just realized like that I was still kind of carrying that on some level, and it needed to be resolved. And now, many years later, and I wouldn't go back to change that moment, because that moment actually was the most beautiful character builder. It is probably part of the driving force, and I didn't realize that it's probably a driving force, and I'm being able to make videos, and I have people who who feel like my videos are great, and like maybe they're helping somebody, and maybe if you're watching this, I feel like I could support you, like I've been in, and just tell you like I've been in that place, and it still comes down to a choice of, like I said, I was on that stretch and I was really ready to go. It's a choice during that adversity that you make to just let everything go, or you make a decision like, you know what? Okay, this wind is blowing. Calm down, all right? Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Although I finished the race, but, lost it. So, there was a choice there. I could have recouped. I could have, the wind, by the time we got to the curb, I think the wind was, we were no longer subject to that wind. I don't know. I was just so distraught. Like, oh my God, the wind is here and I'm going to lose and I'm not going to make it to the state champion. Like everything, like, kind of like the way the green things in the Matrix looked, in the movie The Matrix, like all that information going up and down, and it's not even anything that makes any sense. That was the kind of noise that was going through my head. Like, that was the kind of thing always in my races that will come, just be going, and it's not to say like at the same time like I was some kind of insane or schizoid person, but that there was just like some things there, like as I was trying to step into a place of where I was wanting to win, I was in contradiction somehow, like in my mind, and in my feeling about where I should be, and what I deserved, and what I could do, in general. But then, I had belief in what I could do. But even when I tried, through those things, it was the contradiction between the emotional self, the opinion of yourself, and, there was just some contradiction going on, It's like I said, I'd be going through all this mental stuff, and that's what that information was like in the Matrix. Like when that wind started blowing, I was like, oh, I just like gave up, and I gave up in the sense like not like I want to quit, but it just felt like all of this burden. I was just like, oh, and oh my gosh, like how am I gonna be able to get through this wind? And these girls are gonna catch me, and it's just everything. And then it was like on top of that, I could just see my father, and not to make it, I don't want to make this seem like a victim story or anything, like I'm trying to paint myself as a victim, but all I could see was like his voice telling me to a certain extent, like, if you let a fat person, you're gonna sit up there and let a fat person pass you in a race, I'm just not coming to see your races anymore. And I don't want to make him seem like a villain, but maybe I just wanted, maybe I don't know why I had to say that. Maybe I could try to hold that back, but maybe that helps somebody, you know what I mean? Maybe that actually helps somebody, but he's not, in all fairness, since no one in this video really knows him, I don't want to paint him in a negative light, but, so I don't want, I just put up the disclaimer, like, just don't judge him as like this nasty person or whatever, or this terrible person. But yeah, I mean, it was just everything. It's just so much. And not only that, like the way that I handled that race mentally, overthinking everything, coming into the race unconsciously not believing, being in not in sync between mental and emotional. It was just a mess. I just want you to know, like, you do live through messes, and it's all good. And I really had to like sit there and listen to these tears and just watch what was going on. Because like I said, the me of today was kind of okay, but just watch what was going on. And I saw that loss, yes, it was embarrassing. Yes, I felt really inadequate for a very long time. I felt so inadequate, and I felt isolation. I felt very isolated. I felt like I let my team down as well, my town down, my high school, that type of thing. And I just never knew like the complete, it was like that one thing happened, and okay, it happened, but I also created a painful reverberation and experience, and I attached these definitions to the fact that I lost that, instead of just saying like, you know what, I did the best I could at the time with what I had, like with the wits I had, with the skill that I had, with the mental fitness that I had, with the percentage of belief that I had. I really did the best I could. So I have to just honor myself. It's what showed up that day. I've just got to honor myself. And even now, like, when I said I did the best I could, like, there's a little bit of something going on in there, a little bit tears want to come out or whatever. But I'm going to have to figure that out and still try to keep working with it. But I managed today to really see that the pain or whatever, this unconscious pain of this thing that happened so many years ago, I was so confused about. It was such a surprise. It took me by surprise today, really, that it was also the definitions that I attached to it, the meaning that I attached to it. It's like I attached this loss to my worth, because I had this loss, because I cracked, in the backstretch, I didn't make it through. I made a choice to like break down and not just try to like work through it. Okay, I can't. You know what? I can't. I gotta run a shorter stride. Let me just do that. But don't freak out. Keep going. I'd have been fine. But it's a lesson. It's a lesson learned, and it's a beautiful story. And maybe it happened. Maybe. It happened because I could help people with this video, you know what I mean, and really talk about like the importance of visualization and the importance of paying attention to really what's going on, not only in the head but in the body, like emotionally. Like pay attention to what you're pushing away too, and what definitions you're actually attaching to a loss or to some kind of performance that you did not feel comfortable with, that you feel like you grossly underperformed in. Did you feel, maybe I should ask you this, like for you, let me just turn it to you, like did you feel for maybe, because I always talk about the Australian Open, I think 2009, did you at one point really, I think for me, my heart hurt. I'm serious. Like my heart hurts so hard for you, and I got a little emotional right there. I didn't know. I just felt like it was so much pressure for you. It was so much unfair pressure, and then you just really couldn't see how great you were, and you came into that match, and came into that match and you weren't even 100% there. So I feel like for you, like, did you attach a definition to your worthiness, like based on that loss, and I feel like that's what I did with my race, and that's why I sort of it manifested itself in different ways, for me, unconscious ways, but I've been carrying this around for many years, and it's really weird. But it affects my performance, I'm sure, on some level. I don't know how, but I'm sure it's stopped me from certain things. But by losing that race, I really attached myself, like, you lost, you didn't make it, you missed your chance, sweetie. You really effed up. You played yourself. You know, you embarrassed yourself in front of a whole bunch of people. You died, and that was like the worst thing you could do. You know, like those are things that losers do. You know, so I think I attached because of that loss, you know, just saying like, okay, it's a loss. It's a loss. Like, what can I do to snap back? You know what I mean? At least I know when win comes in like that, I have a choice. You know, when adversity like that comes in next time, I have a choice. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Embrace the moment. Just go with what's on the table. Like, you know what? If this is what's showing up and wind is showing up right now, like, not the way it was that day, but, you know, if wind is showing up, if adversity is showing up, okay. You know what? Okay. All right. Good. You know, that's something that my trainer actually says too. Like, great, she says. If this is what's showing up, great. You know, and I'm just going to stay really centered in myself. Like, you do what you need to do, wind. I'm going to do what I need to do and stay centered. If I stay centered inside of myself that day, I'm like, okay, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. Just keep going. Just keep going. Even if somebody passed me, even if 2 people pass me, all right, just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. Do you feel you can pick it up? All right, just try to pick it up anyway. Maybe I don't feel like I can pick it up, but just try to pick it up anyway. Just try to pick it up. Just try to stay 4 feet behind this girl. Don't let her get more than 6 feet in front of you. Don't let that stretch. Okay? Can you make it 3 feet? You know, and just gradually do that. So it's very interesting. You know, I know I've talked a lot. I know I've been like all over the place, but again, like, I've been meaning to talk about this in the last couple of videos, but you know how I kind of like go off and forget certain stuff. So I guess this is what it is, and it showed up today, and it's just kind of like, what have you attached definition to, like, with things that you've lost? Like, you know, 2009 Australian Open, and maybe I'm the one who keeps bringing that up. Maybe you're not even necessarily thinking it, but is it hanging around somewhere, you know? Is it hanging around somewhere? You may not feel it up here. You may be all good up here, but is it hanging around somewhere? You know, is it looming around somewhere? And is it affecting your performance today? And like, what definition did you attach to that? Like, oh my God, you can't do this. You lost here, and this is what this loss here means. You've lost it. Means you can't win Grand Slams anymore. It means, you know, the people don't believe in you. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I took away from that race at the state championship. Like, those same exact things for me, you know, the same exact things, except I've carried it for many years now. Don't you do the same thing? That's all I'm saying. With great love, honor, and respect, and good luck in Wimbledon for today. I'm signing off. Good luck. Keep a positive attitude, you know, and just keep promising yourself the best at every point, the best in every moment. All right? Have a good one.